So I had this idea this morning. I've been talking about everything being a bet in project management, and I came up with 6 different games that I think we're playing when we're doing a project. The first game is called Screw It, which is basically at some point somebody just has to stop worrying about all the details and rationally exploring the risks and reward and decide that the project's going to go for it. The second game is one called Heads I Win, Tails You Lose, and this is a game that the person or people who said screw it have to play, which is that if the thing goes well, they'll take credit, and if the thing goes badly, they'll be nowhere to be seen. Which sounds like a bad idea, but actually is kind of unavoidable. If people weren't willing to play that game, then they wouldn't be willing to take the risk. The third game, which is where it's difficult for people who are working on projects to get too high and mighty about their moral purity, is called The Hiding Hand. And this is something that an economist called Albert Hirschman drew attention to, which is when projects get started, everybody kind of is supportive. They don't shout out too much what the risks are. They don't shout out the problems too much. They're quite keen on getting the project going. Of course, because they're getting paid and there's going to be work involved. And so this is another game that's going on when a project has been kicked off. And then 4, I've got Project Management Theatre, which is kind of very closely connected to the Hiding Hand. And this is just doing a bunch of stuff. This is basically the people who said screw it and started the project, and the people who are actually doing the project, all together pretending that if only we do the right kinds of incantations, if only we follow the right kind of methodology, then this project is somehow guaranteed to be delivered. And then number 5 is kind of an interesting one, which is so initially you made this bet, you kind of said screw it, and you bet that this thing would deliver risks and rewards. But at some point, very often with a project, there's you have to bet more. Basically, if you really want the project to succeed, you have to kind of up your stake. And so there becomes this game, which is basically the people who are doing the project and the people who want the project. The people who are doing the project saying, do you want this thing or not? Because if you do, then you're probably going to have to up your stake. You're going to have to up your bet. And then number 6 is a kind of less morally murky game that if you're working on a project, you can do, which is you can shorten the odds. You can basically be working through a series of smaller bets to make the big bet less of a risk. And the way that you can do that is by talking to your users all the way through, so it's a more informed bet, and also by getting working software delivered, and even talking to users about how they feel about that working software. Basically, by doing all these things, you're reducing the risk of this big bet that was made at the beginning.